What's going on? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics, and up next I'm going to go over the books that I'll be sending in to CGC in my next submission. Got quite a few books here, so I'm going to break it up into a few different videos. I'm going to talk about the books, why I'm sending those in, my grade estimates for them, all that kind of stuff. So let's get into these books. Alright, so before we get started, please remember to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. So I've got about 75 books that I'm going to be doing for this submission. That's around what I sent in for my last submission as well. I don't know why I like to send in so many books at once. I think it just helps reduce the cost on shipping a little bit. But so because of that, I'm going to break this into 3 different videos. I'm actually probably just going to, I think I'm just going to swap my hat out because I'm just going to film it all at once, and then that way I can at least track it when I'm editing these videos. So you'll see my hat change between these videos. But one thing I thought I would show real quick, I showed this on Instagram, but I think maybe this would be helpful for some people. So I like to use these BCW boxes, these big plastic ones. I think they stack real easily, all that. But the problem is that with their width, they can't hold Golden Age books. So what I've come up with to resolve that is they provide you with a divider for these. And so I put their divider right here, and then I put regular sized books over here, and so they go lengthwise. And then I have the Golden Age books that can then fit over on this side, and so then I put them in facing the other direction. And so that's how I separate them, and that way I can still maximize the space, and I can get Golden Age books in here as well as Silver Age, Modern, Copper, that kind of thing. So I'm going to, with this video, I'm gonna start going through these, and I'll stop at 25, and I'll start filming for the next one. So the first book I've got here is Action Comics number 340. And so this is the first appearance of Parasite. So it's a pretty nice copy of this one. I have this book at a 7.0. So for me, when I'm looking at deciding which books to send in, I'm looking at what I think the grade can be for that book, what my cost is, what it costs to get it pressed and cleaned and graded, and then what it can sell for after the fact. Even if it's a book that I'm not planning on selling, I put that into my consideration for if I'm going to get that book graded, because I don't want to end up spending something and then having a book that costs me more than the book is actually worth after it's graded. So that's a consideration I make whether I'm planning to sell a book or not. But first book, Action Comics 340, first appearance of Parasite. Next book here is Amazing Spider-Man number 78. This is actually a copy that I picked up from Golden Age Guru's friend Eric. I thought it looked really nice when it got here. I have this one at a 6 to a 6.5. This is one of these books I talked about where it has this printer crease right here. Printer creases do not affect the grades. That's something important to know if you're grading books. Printer creases don't impact the grade. They're considered a manufacturing defect, which doesn't count against the book, but color is just super bright on this one. There's a little bit of spine wear, but overall a really nice presenting copy. This is the first appearance of the Prowler, and I think anything when you're getting into these pre-issue 100 Spider-Man, they're getting more and more expensive, and I think they're worthwhile to send in. Next book here, still Spider-Man. This is my childhood copy of Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 1. It is incomplete. It is missing a couple pages, but I've had this book up for sale for a while, and I've just gotten tired of answering the question about the missing pages, and so I was like, I'll just get it graded. And so then it'll be on the slab, because even with their new changes, their changes to how they're putting labels on the slabs, it will still say which pages are missing. They don't have to answer that question anymore. And this book has gotten worth enough that even in a 0.5, it's worthwhile to get it graded. My cost is pretty low because I bought it when I was a kid from my brother, and so I felt like this one was worthwhile to send in. It is a decent presenting copy of the book. It has a major spine split, and like I said, missing a couple pages. And that one would be, like I said, that would be a 0.5 just because it's missing the pages. There's no real question about the grade on that one. Next book here, this is Batman number 148, which it's just a kind of a cool Silver Age Joker cover. It is a really nice presenting copy of this book. This book is pretty tough to actually get in a nice presenting condition. If you look on eBay, that kind of thing, they're usually really beat up. The main flaw on this book, as you can see down here, it's got some kind of like little crease along the spine, or not the spine, the corner here, and a little piece that's missing. The back cover, I think there's a little tanning and a little bit of chipping on it, but I have this one at a 5.5 to a 6, which is a, you know, it looks better than a 5.5 to a 6, probably looks more like a 7.5, something like that, but because of that chipping there and the bit of chipping on the back cover, I've knocked it down a bit. But Joker covers, always popular, and if I've got a nice condition copy, there's something I'm always considering sending in. Next book here, got another DC book. This is Brave and the Bold number 54. This is the first appearance of the Teen Titans, and these are the older Teen Titans, not the new Teen Titans that a lot of people are really familiar with from the cartoon, that kind of thing. So this is Robin, Kid Flash, and Aqualad that are on the cover here. This is a pretty nice condition copy of this book. I have it as a 7.0. I'm a little nervous about this one because there is quite a bit of tanning on this book, and you can see there's this this dust shadow. Well, it's more like a sun shadow in this case. It's like some fading because the books were stacked on top of one another. So there's that little sun shadow there, and there's a little chip down in the corner here. But in general, it is a really clean looking copy of this book. This book is relatively tough to get in this type of condition. So I've got it at a 7.0. I'm a little worried it might get something like a 6.5, but I still felt it was worthwhile to send in. I will probably actually be losing money on this one after grading, but I don't know. I like the book. I think it's a really just clean looking copy, so I decided that I would send this one in. The next book here is one that I showed in one of my recent grading videos. And this is Captain Marvel number 27. And so this is the first appearance of, well, not the first appearance. I think this is the first full appearance of Star Fox. He actually has his first appearance in cameo in Iron Man number 55. That's along with Thanos and Drax and all of that stuff. But this is potentially a big character with the future of the MCU. And this is a pretty nice presenting copy. I have it as an 8 to an 8.5. I think I might have downgraded it from what I said in my grading video. I think in my grading video I had it as an 8.5 to a 9. I had taken a little closer look to it, and there was some other stuff I saw on it that I decided to downgrade it a little bit. But I have this one as an 8 to an 8.5. Nice presenting copy. Early Thanos appearance. I think this is the third appearance of Thanos as well. And you've got Super Skrull on the cover there. Just cool cover. And decided this one was worthwhile to get graded with the potential for Star Fox or Eros, whatever name you want to use for him, that we've got in the MCU. All right. This is a book that's come down in price quite a bit, but I felt like it was still worthwhile to send in. I got it for a good price, so that's something I always take into consideration. If I got it for pretty cheap, then I feel like it's still worthwhile to send in, even if prices are coming down. Now, this one is Doctor Strange number 1. This is when he gets his own self-titled run. After you had Strange Tales change from Strange Tales to Doctor Strange, then he had a new run that started at 1 that came a few years later. But this one I have as a 9 to a 9.2. It's a really clean copy. It's got this little corner crease up here. And so that's going to keep it from doing much better than that. But otherwise, super clean copy of this book. And with this book has gotten quite a bit more expensive over the last couple years, and I just felt like it was worthwhile to send in. So 9 to a 9.2 with Doctor Strange number 1. This is a big book. So this is Fantastic Four number 1. This is not the Golden Records reprint or anything like that. This is Fantastic Four number 1. The big thing with this book, though, is that the right edge here is trimmed and the top edge is trimmed. And so this one I picked up from Superworld Comics, and this is the type of book where with just the cost of this book, you just kind of need to get it graded. It makes it easier to sell those books, and it gives people confidence in what they're getting. I have it as a 2.5. Now, it is a pretty nice presenting copy, but there's some chipping up in the corner up here. There's what looks like, some tape. I don't think that's tanning. I think it's tape residue along the top. But the main thing in my mind that's risky with this book that makes me nervous is the spine. It's probably pretty hard. Yeah, it's actually coming out pretty well. The spine is really rough. It is attached at both staples, but the spine is rough. And if you've watched any of my other grading videos I've done recently where I've gotten books back from CGC, they are very harsh on rough spines. And it would really sting if this book came back like a 2.0. I'd be pretty upset, and I would be even more upset if they actually damaged the book with the spine. I hope, because this is a walkthrough book, this is a book that I'm going to have to spend a lot of money to get graded, a lot of money to get pressed, but I'm expecting a 2.5 as long as no additional damage is done to the book, but you never really know. So I'm nervous about this one. I mean, I'm definitely nervous about it, but it has a lot of value regardless, even if something happens to it, but I don't want it to get a lower grade than I think it deserves in its current condition. But yeah, gonna get it pressed, gonna get it cleaned, all of that, and then it'll be sent off, and I'm expecting a restored 2.5 because of the trimmed edges. But yeah, this is the biggest book, I think, in the submission. But I've got a few other big ones that are in this one, but I think this is the biggest book that's in this submission. So then I've got a couple other Fantastic Four books. I've got Fantastic Four number 66. This is the origin of him, or Adam Warlock. You don't actually see him in the book until issue 67. That's his first cameo appearance. This is a pretty nice copy. I have this one as an 8 to an 8.5. The only thing that makes me a little nervous on this one is there's a little bit of spine wear along here, and I think that could end up hurting this book. But otherwise, it is a super clean copy. You know, you've got really nice edges, you know, a little wear down in the corner. Just in general, a really nice presenting copy of this book. But there is some color break, you know, along the spine, you know, that you can see there. And so that's got me a little nervous on it. But yeah, I've got it as an 8 to an 8.5. I wouldn't be surprised though if it got a little bit lower because of that. But we'll see how this one turns out. I like these Adam Warlock keys right now. I think that he's going to be a major character in the MCU, and so I think getting this one, 67, Thor 165, Marvel Premiere 1 are all pretty good books to own. But yeah, so that's that book there. Then I've got one more Fantastic Four book. This is one that I am definitely speculating on some right now. This is Fantastic Four Annual number 5. It's the first appearance of this character, who is Psycho Man, who I think is potentially going to be the main villain or one of the major villains in the Ant-Man movie. He kind of plays a role in the microverse, and so I think he could definitely be a character that shows up. I've got a graded copy right now that's a 9.0, and then like I said, I'm sending this one in. I have this one as a 7.0. I think it could potentially do a little better. It all depends how things clean up along the spine here with the pressing. But right now, at least, I have this book at a 7.0. And so this is one I think this is a worthwhile pickup. At least get a copy, you know, going into that. But it's a flip book. It's a book that I'm not planning on holding. If we do see that character, I'm selling it, and if we don't see the character, I'm selling it. All right, then the next one, I've got actually two of the same book here, and this is Ghost Rider number 1, but this is the 1967 version of Ghost Rider. This is not the one that most people know. This is back when he was more of a Western character. And so one of these is a little higher grade than the other. Yeah, so one of them I have as a 7 to a 7.5, which is this book here. And then the other one I have as a 4.5 to a 5. And so you can see they're both pretty clean in the middle of the book, but this one, you know, it's got a little more spine wear. It's got some wear down in that corner, wear there, but in general, a nice presenting copy. I have this one as the 4.5 to a 5. And then this one is the 7 to the 7.5, and so you can see it's just a much cleaner version of this book. The main thing that's holding this book back, you can see it, is that flaw right there. You've got this little crease going on down on the bottom here, and that's really what's holding us back from, I think, getting into the 8s. It might be able to hit an 8 with that. I don't know. I think that'll be it'll be a little tough because it's got a couple other little things. It's got this, you know, kind of like a finger bend right there in the cover. Everything shows up on this cover because it's this black cover. But yeah, the main flaw in this book is right here. That's the main flaw that I'm concerned with. But I've been talking about these Ghost Rider books, I mean, including the 1973 version, but this one, as well as the one from the 50s, the Golden Age version, they're all getting really expensive. They've all been on this trend up, and so I decided I'd send both of these in. This next book here, I did this one as part of one of the grading videos as well. This is G.I. Joe number 21, which is the first appearance of Storm Shadow. It's that silent issue, but it's a newsstand. And this one, I was pretty impressed with the condition of this book. I have it as an 8.5, which for me, I felt like it was worth sending in for what I spent on it. And it's one of the, it's actually, I'd say it's the biggest issue from the G.I. Joe run, even bigger than issue number 1. It's the one that I think is just the most popular. It has a great cover. It's cool how it's got the silent story on the interior, no words or anything. But yeah, really nice presenting copy of this. Got it an 8.5. It's got a little tear up here that you can just, yeah, you can kind of barely see there. But in general, a super clean copy of this book. All right, jumping back to DC. I got another copy of this graded in my last submission. I picked this one up recently. This is Green Lantern number 59, which is the first appearance of Guy Gardner. And just, I love this green cover. This is a really nice presenting copy, but it has quite a bit of tanning. And so I have this one as a 6.5 to a 7. It's got a little chip down again in that corner. This is actually from the same set of books as that Action Comics 340. It has very similar flaws to it. It has tanning, it has, you know, a little chip in the, like I said, a little chip in the corner, but otherwise is a super clean copy of this. If it didn't have the tanning, probably in an 8, but with the tanning, I think that's just going to end up holding it back. You can see it a lot more on the back cover than you can see on the front, but definitely has some tanning. But this is a character that is supposed to be in this Green Lantern show that we're eventually maybe going to get with HBO. I hope we do get that at some point, because I think HBO has done they do a great job with their shows, and so I think it has potential more than the Green Lantern movie. So yeah, I don't mind having copies of this book, and I send this one in. Next one, I've actually got a PreCode Horror book here, and this is, let's see, yeah, the issue is not on the cover, so Haunted Thrills number 12. And I thought it was just a cool book to send in. I like the PreCode Horror stuff. It's pretty nice condition. I have it as a 5.5 to a 6. There's a little bit of spine wear, but overall, a really clean copy of this book, especially for the Golden Age. It's a cool skull cover. Skull covers, that's, if you've got kind of like an attractive woman on the cover and a skull on the cover, you get a couple of those elements that people are really looking for. That's what really makes a good PreCode Horror cover. There are certain elements that people are always looking for with these horror covers, and this covers a couple of them. So yeah, so I've got, like I said, got this one at a 5 to a 5.5, and so this would be a cool book to get back. This is actually a Matt Baker cover. This is from when he also did, he's most well known for his Good Girl art type covers, but he also did quite a few Western theme covers, and this is one of those. This is Hawk number 9, and it's just a really clean presenting copy of it, so I thought it would be worthwhile to send in. The reds are really bright. It's got this kind of this sunset or sunrise, whatever it is, in the background there that I think looks really nice. And so I have this one at a 3.5. It's not a high grade. It's got kind of like a dust shadow along the spine, but I still thought it presented really well. And Matt Baker books, just in general, are really popular. They keep increasing in popularity. And one of the areas that hasn't gotten a lot of attention yet is his Western stuff. So I thought this would be a cool one to send in. I think I might have another one in here too. That's from one of his Western covers. All right, next book here. This is Incredible Hulk Annual number 1, which is an awesome Steranko cover. And this one, if you are one of the early watchers of my channel, this was actually a book that I unboxed in like my 3rd or 4th video. And this was a book that was shipped just between cardboard. there was no bag, no board or anything, but it made it here. I don't think it took on any additional damage because it's a really nice copy. I have this one as a 7 to a 7.5. It's got a little bit of spine wear, some kind of like rubbing along the spine, but in general, a really clean copy of this book. And the other thing that I really liked with this one is it's got this date stamp here, and the date stamp is in purple, which matches kind of like the background, which I just thought was really cool. So yeah, I decided to send this one in. I think, kind of to get an idea, again, like I think people like to talk about what prices were back in like 2020. I think I bought this in 2020. I think that's what it would have been. And I believe I paid like $75 for it. If this comes back a 7 or 7.5, I think that's like $600 now. So big difference in prices between then and now. All right, this next one, this was actually one of the first books I ever bought when I got on Instagram. It's from the ShangChi publishing, and this is Josie and the Pussycats number 45, which is actually when I believe the title of this kind of changed. It's the first appearance of Josie and the Pussycats. It's actually a pretty nice condition copy of this book. This is one of the ones where it's kind of a good example for how you can have a flaw that a lot of people might think is going to lower the grade of the book, but it doesn't. I talked about it with one of the earlier books, but this one has a big printer crease here. It's also got the printer crease on the back, but like I said, those printer creases, they do not affect the grade. The thing that will affect the grade, though, is this little corner crease down here. It breaks color. There's nothing you can do about that. I have this one, though, at a 6 to a 6.5, because otherwise, other than this little corner crease here, this is a very nice condition copy. You can tell it's really bright colors. It's got a little spine wear. It's got some spine ticks and a little bit of creasing, but it's one that I think will press out really well, be a really nice presenting copy. So kind of like an Archie key, first Josie and the Pussycats. And so 6 to a 6.5. This will be another cool book to get back. This next one, I have a few copies of this book, but this is the only one I decided to send in. And that's what I'm talking about. When I go over each of my books, I price them out, and I figure out what it's going to cost for me to get it graded, and then if it's worth it based on what I spent. And this was the only one that I decided was worthwhile to get graded. This is Marvel Superheroes number 20. And this is the first appearance of Valeria Doom, but it's also just, arguably the best Doom cover that's out there. This is an awesome Doom cover. And this one I have at a 6.5 to a 7, which for these square bound books is pretty nice. This book can be a little tough to get outside of like the 4 to 5 range. And a lot of times it's lower than that because these books you get a ton of spine splitting. This one doesn't have any spine splitting. I believe my other two copies do. The other two copies have some spine splitting down here. This one, the main flaws are kind of like this little bit of color rub and creasing in that corner there. But otherwise, really a pretty nice presenting copy of this one. There's a small bit of damage on the spine. Let's see if I can get it to show up. It's like right here over the on the marvel. It's tough to see, but there's a little bit of damage right there. But in general, a really nice presenting copy of this one, and I decided this one was worthwhile to send in. I got this in a lot with most of the run of this, where this run, it starts as fantasy masterpieces and then changes to Marvel Superheroes at issue 12 with the first appearance of Captain Marvel. Or the original Captain Marvel. But I have a number of the books from that run, and this was just one of them. This is the main reason I bought that whole run. I wanted this copy from that run, and so yeah, a nice condition copy. And like I said, I think 6.5 to a 7 is where I have this one. Now, this one is I was on the fence on sending in because it's kind of like if it gets the upper end of the grade range, it's worth it. If it gets the lower end, it's not worth it. If it gets lower than that, it's definitely not worth it. This is Showcase number 73 with the first appearance of a really weird character called the Creeper. He is the embodiment of his name. I would describe that dude as a creeper. But it's a pretty nice presenting copy of this book. I have it as an 8.0. There are a couple little stains on this book. I can't remember where they are right now, but that's the main thing that's going to be holding this one back. think they're, if I remember correctly, there might be something small on the back cover as well. But otherwise, I mean, look at this book. Like, that spine is just incredible. There's like one spine tick right there. The bottom edge is really, really nice. You've got a little rounding in that corner there, but I mean, just a stunning copy of this book from the front cover. Like I said, I think there's a little something going on in the back. I can't remember for sure right now, but I know that there are a couple small stains on this cover. I just can't remember where they are. But that's what's really, I feel like, going to hold this one back from getting outside of that 8.0. But if it gets like a 7.5 or lower, it's not really worth it. If it gets the 8.0, 8.5, it's definitely worth it. But it was just too nice of a copy for me to not send in. I thought it was worthwhile to send it. It deserved to be graded, I felt like, with the condition of this book. This next one here, I'm just going to end up adding it to my pile of, of these books. This is Special Marvel Edition number 15, first appearance of ShangChi. This one is, again, in pretty nice condition. I've got it at a 7.5. It's a tough, kind of tough book to get in high grade. I mean, it's a Bronze Age book. There are quite a few of them that are out there, but in general, it's got a little wear up there, but pretty clean book, a little bit of spine wear, but overall a really clean presenting copy. This one, I bought this book back in, I think maybe even 2019. So I bought it a long time ago. I got it for really cheap back then. So that's one of the things that I'm taking into consideration with this, is it didn't cost me much, and so for me it was worthwhile to send in and get graded. Also, it's a character that I believe in the MCU. I think they're going to be using this character a lot in the future, and so I think these are, with how much these books have come down since that movie, I think they're definitely worthwhile to pick up and get this one graded. I have a few other raw copies that I decided not to get graded that weren't worth it to me, but this one was high enough grade, and I felt, that 7.5, that this one was worth sending in. This one is another one that I've got 2 copies of. This book has gotten a lot more expensive recently too, and that's part of what made me decide to send both of them in. This is Star Trek number 1 from Gold Key, and so let's see. One of these I have just as a 3.0, the other one I have as a 6.0. And so here you can see this is the one I have as a 3.0. It's not too bad. The main issue is along the bottom edge there. You've got, I don't know if that was like silverfish or something that ate that, or I don't think it was mice because they didn't get into the pages. Usually mice are indiscriminate on what they eat. They'll eat the pages and the cover and everything. But when you've got silverfish, so these little bugs, they'll eat into the cover. They don't really tend to go into the pages. But it's got spine wear, all that kind of stuff. I don't have it as a high grade. I have it as a 3.0, but for what I paid for it, with what these books are selling for now, I felt like it was worthwhile to send in. And then this is the one that I have as a 6.0, much cleaner copy of this book. Has the date written up there, but it's really, this one is limited to spine wear for the most part. That's really what's holding this book back. But otherwise, a very nice presenting copy of this. I'm a Star Trek fan. I like Star Trek. I grew up watching Star Trek. I still watch Star Trek. So when I learned about this book, when I got back into collecting, I ended up picking up a couple copies of it. I think I've had 3 copies. I think I've sold one of them since then, but I've got 2 more now and decided to send these ones in. This book is, I'm down to the final 2 for this video. And this is one I just did recently in a grading video. And I think this is one I felt was useful to send in just to see what it gets back with respect to how this impacts the grade. So this is Strange Tales number 54. It's an early Silver Age horror book from Atlas, which is, you had Marvel that went from Timely to Atlas to Marvel, and this is one of their horror runs that eventually ended up going to later on, where you've got Doctor Strange, all that kind of stuff. This is pre-hero Strange Tales, and this one presents extremely nice from the front cover. It's got some spine wear, but that's about it. And I have this book as a 4 to a 4.5, and the reason is, on the back cover it's missing a piece down here that's around the size of a quarter or so. And so I think these are always useful to get graded, just because it really does show you how they're grading that book, where you've got a book that is otherwise probably a 6.0, something around there, maybe 6.0, 6.5, but you've got a major flaw on the book, a single flaw that's going to be a limiter, that's going to hold it back. So that's why I've got this one at a 4 to a 4.5 because of that piece that's missing on the back. Then the other one here is also from the Strange Tales run, and this is Strange Tales number 123. I think there's some key fact with this book, but I think it's the first Loki crossover. I don't remember exactly. The main reason I'm sending this one in is because it is really nice. It is a higher grade copy. I have it as an 8 to an 8.5. I mean, check this thing out. I mean, you've got razor sharp edges, clean looking spine, really nice, bottom edge. I mean, it could it even get higher than that? Maybe. But I've got it as an 8 to an 8.5. This, I believe, I got from Flip Mode when they were selling, it was called the Old Man Collection. It was this collection that was just really high grade. My X-Men number 9 that I got an 8.5 back on, that was from that. My Atom number 1 that I got an 8.5 back from was from that collection. And I know they've had a number of books from that collection that got 9s, and so I think this is another one. Could easily get up in that 8.5 range. And so, Loki's super popular. You got Loki on the cover. Like I said, I think it's the first Loki crossover. I don't think this is the first appearance of the Beetle, but it might be. But yeah, Strange Tales number 123. And so that's one of the reasons I will sometimes send a book in, if I think it's really high grade, because that's how you can get that difference in price. Whereas if you're selling it raw, once you get up to certain higher grades, it's a little harder to get that value. But once you get it graded, then you can tend to ask a little bit more for the book. So I'm sending this one in. All right, so that's the first set of 25 books. I'm gonna film the next 25 and then the next 25. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. I've got more videos over here if you'd like to watch some of my other videos, and the subscription button right here. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, I'd really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video.